Hey, this is Gary Brackett, and welcome to another episode of Success Leaves Clues. I'm very excited today to have my guest on the show. We met each other years ago when I was still playing football, believe it or not, with the Indianapolis Colts. And Darrin Gray has been a leader in the All-Pro Dads Clubs, now with Athletes in Action. He has been the guy behind some of the most famous NFL players, most famous professional athletes and coaches, and their mission to give back, serve the kingdom, and just serve their communities. Darrin, welcome on the show.
Man, it's great to be here, Gary.
Man, so tell the world a little bit about, like, who is Darrin Gray, where are you from, and how did you kind of get to where you're at now? How did you get to this role?
Gary, I grew up in Anderson, Indiana. Nobody special. But the good news is that God doesn't just call the special people, like He credentials those as we go, as we're willing to step in and lead in. I grew up in the media business. I had a chance to learn how to reach people through the media. When you reach more people, you got a chance to make a positive difference if your message is good. And I had a chance encounter with an organization called All-Pro Dad. And All-Pro Dad, founded by Tony Dungy and Clyde Christensen, who many of your listeners may be familiar with, had a vision to help bring fatherhood to the forefront across America. And they invited me to come along on the journey. At the time, I was a media executive, and what happened was we became a sponsor of that work. And then I told Tony and Mark Merrill and the other people part of this that I would help find a couple of sponsors, just as a volunteer, just sort of as a friend in the community. And we helped to find a bank that provided a seed capital gift to really get things launched. And goodness gracious, I wrote a personal check just saying, hey, I want to help. And I think that was the day they saw my heart. And they said, Darrin, you're about serving people, about making a difference. And over time, they invited me to come along on that journey. And for 11 years, I commuted from Indianapolis to Tampa once a month. And each month, we would film and script and strategize with Tony Dungy in the office and hundreds of other NFL players, coaches, and alumni that have leaned into that from the best of the best. I mean, Singletary and Munoz, last names that matter. But the truth of that matter is, we were on mission to help make people better. And that's Tony's tagline. What are you going to do to make it better?
I can remember Coach Dungy, probably one of his most vulnerable moments. His son, James, passed away.
That's right.
We're in Tampa at the church, and his challenge to us that if we just win a Super Bowl and not serve the community, we failed. If your purpose isn't to give back and help others, then you have failed with your platform. And I and a lot of the other guys on the team had foundations, gave back to the community, man. And really it was like that, man, how can you be on a platform, right, and not shy away from it and say, hey, I'm not a role model, right? No, you are a role model. It's okay. You could be a bad role model or a good role model.
You're nailing it.
And I think, so many of us decide to be good role models, and it's folks like yourself that really helps guide the ship.
Yeah, behind the scenes, that's right, because, you needed to be prepared to be at a moment's notice, right, on stage, in any context, to advocate for yourself and for the community, to share with them what you were accomplishing, and so many other guys on your team that did, right, just man after man after man. And the funny thing is, that's not that way on every NFL team. And my vantage point got to be a very unique one because I've worked directly with 20 of the NFL teams running on-turf programming, big media partners, famous people to bring together fathers and kids to help build out this amazing experience called the All-Pro Dad Father and Kids Experience. Now, we've done that all over America, and it's an amazing process.
How big is All-Pro Dads now? Just so people can get the scope of the...
It's crazy town, but 1,200 chapters come together every month. So think of that as a ginormous Alabama football stadium filled with dads and kids, like to the rafters overflowing, come together every month. But they're doing it in small groups. And quite frankly, that's where life change happens. People think, life change happens on hey, come to the big rally. But, and you might make a decision in a rally, but you actually live it out in the small groups. And the small groups met the aspirational heart of the need of dads to have a role in their kids' school.
Wow.
And so when we did the research study was done by an amazing group, we found that really what fathers, men of honor and courage that wanted to be present and included in their lives, they wanted to figure out how they could be beloved or esteemed in the eyes of their children. Now think about this. Like that seems pretty obvious. You're like, okay, hey, I want to be loved by my kids, but I literally love and respect. I want to be respected. And the way that they're able to garner that point of respect is by being a chapter leader.
Wow.
By showing up at 7 o'clock, and on a Tuesday morning every month, first Tuesday or third Friday.
Right.
And then living that out, and their child then can believe in them and go, not only are you my hero, but you're a hero to the rest of the community that met the aspirational heart of men that were leaders. And then we began connecting. I mean, Ryan Diem runs a chapter in Zionsville. You find guys that then go. Torrey Smith, a wide receiver, called me last week, like, man, I want to start a chapter. And I'm like, okay, you're a leader when you say you are, let's go. But to land this plane, what ended up happening was we began to find the thing that was most needed.
Wow.
Because, if you're a dad, you need to be a good dad. You do want that love and respect exchange from your child. But what they really needed was to find their role in the community. And what we gave them, Gary, was a chance to know their neighbors. People don't know their neighbors in our society, right? They're polarized, they're separated, but schools is the ecosystem where change happens.
And it's amazing when you get to know your neighbors, there's so many commonalities.
Come on.
We're way more the same than we are different as people.
Come on, brother.
Right? And the world, the media would want us to be divided, right? To be polarized, where we really had a conversation.
Makes good news.
Right? What do you like to eat? Pizza? Right? What movies do you, like same movies, same songs, same music.
Yeah.
Right? We have a few different opinions.
Yes.
And those are the ones. So it's amazing, what you all are doing to bring communities together. Because I think that's how you grow and you heal. Is by bringing communities together.
So that system is going well. It's still based down in Tampa. This month launched a race relation strategy to get families talking about hard topics.
Right.
Clyde Christensen, Tony Dungy, that's in the marketplace now. That's awesome. But, I got an opportunity 3 years ago to go to Israel, take men that you tackled, literally, men that you played for, Coach Caldwell,
absolutely.
Right? And to go and be the spiritual guide for that group. And while I was there, I got some downloads. You ever get downloads? You ever have big dreams? God, it syncs up with those big dreams. And God made a way for me to build out a network of several hundred NFL players, coaches, and alumni.
Wow.
To do it under the auspices of an amazing sports ministry called Athletes in Action. And so I get to shape organizational strategy. I get to live that part of my story, but I also then get to be in relation, right? Just as we're doing today, knowing men that played the game so that we can get the storylines right to impact the people. And when pros are on purpose, right, man, they can create purposefulness for people. And when you're doing that in a youth context, which is my favorite place, how are we going to lift up? How are we going to uplift, right, youth, and then what I call the father deficit disorder. There's just a lot of guys that are checked out. So we just have to insert mentor. We got a positive male role model, coach. And that's what I'm about. That's what my life is about. And I hope that I've been able to do that.
I can see you're passionate about it, man. It's amazing just to watch someone fire out about serving, about leading. One common misconception is these men, and I think as a man, right? I think what's his name, Joe. I remember he used to do our chapel as Joe. He was like Coach Dungy's chaplain. I think starts with an E, I believe. But he talks about
Joe Ehrman.
Come
on,
he talks
man.
about the masculinity of a man and these masks that we wear.
Yeah.
And one of these big things that I'll constantly fight is so many men don't think they should ask for help. And just share with me about some of these men, right? Because if we get down to their core in terms of like what are they vulnerable about, like what are their fears? Because people would think these guys in football, they're gladiators. They don't for anything, but they're men. So what are some of these men like common fears, just about manhood, about being a dad, about serving their communities?
Am I good enough? Will I measure up? Can I keep my job? Am I going to get cut? What if I don't make the play? Like when you make your living in pro sports, like it can be hard. A guaranteed contract don't mean no guarantee. Like it's hard. And so when you understand that and you find the freedom by finding joy in the journey, by finding joy in the adventures of that, then you can live from a place of freedom. I call that audience of one. Like you don't serve those other coaches. Audience of one, I mean, you serve God, right? That's really not playing for the world's applause, right? You're playing for the approval of the Most High. Yeah. And so when you get that framework right, it makes it a little bit easier to what I call play free. Right. And so for you, what Joe Ehrman was teaching you and has taught me, and I've been with him, he was a great player in his own right for the Baltimore Colts. But he has a system to talk about authentic masculinity because every man needs a guide when it comes to becoming a man. The challenge in our society is a lot of young boys aren't getting, the guides they're getting are negative role models.
Right. So I would say like their compass is wrong.
Come on.
Right. So our compass and how we've been programmed is what North is: success, women, clothes, big houses, social stat, all these things that we've been taught and trained and led to our compass is actually the opposite of what really matters.
So global positioning satellites must have 3 pieces of triangulated data to find the geopoint. And what happens is, right, when you don't have an intact family as one of those places where you're getting that good parenting, right, then that GPS makes it much harder to find out where you need to go, where you need to end up to get to that point. And so what we try to do is make sure that every child is surrounded by 3 caring adults.
Wow.
Now that can be take on a lot of different forms: mentor, coach, role model, big teacher, brother, stepfather, teacher. But when you get that right and you begin to make sure that young people are surrounded by at least 3 caring adults, it becomes clear. But what I oftentimes teach that goes overlooked by a lot of mentoring programs, Gary, is people aren't teaching the young person how to identify the aspirational people that they can go to and say, will you mentor me? And when you create a 2-way virtuous cycle where you've got men of honor looking for young people, and when you've got kids reaching up to claim, like no man can resist the voice of a young person saying, here I am, will you notice me?
That's powerful.
You got unnoticed on a football context. Like you had to overcome something. Like every boy can feel that way sometimes. Like, am I good enough? Do I measure up? Will I be noticed? So how did you overcome being noticed, like not being noticed? Like what was that like? And how do you use that to teach people in your context?
I think the one thing that I've learned was like, you don't ask for help. You don't ask for mentor because you're weak. You ask because you want to remain strong. And I think, again, the compass and our GPS is off where you do it yourself. And no one does anything by themselves. Everyone has a team.
We all stand on the shoulders of others.
That's it. It's this story, man, that really I spoke at my son's school and for Donuts with Dads. And I talked about father works hard. You know, he's trying to set themselves up for success and family and vacations and the boats and all the things. And he comes home from work late at night, 9 o'clock, sun's still up. And his son runs to the door, Daddy. He was like, I'm glad to see you, man. He was like, I want to know how much you make. He was like, what? Like, I get home late. You ask me how much I make? I'm like, man, thanks for staying up, but go to bed. Like, so then he's a little hard on the kid. So he goes back into his room, and then he goes up to his room, son, and then he says, I'm sorry, I was a little hard on you. I make $50 an hour, son. I don't know what you're asking for. Maybe be a school project, but it's $50 an hour. So then the son, like, he gets under and he looks in his pillow. and he's looking, right, and he pulls out $25, and then he asks his dad. He says, "Can I borrow $25?" And Dad was like, "Well, that's why you asked me money, so you could ask me for money." So again, Dad walks off like, "I can't believe this dude." So then the dad comes back like, "Man, here goes $25." So then the kid counts out the money, $50. Hey, Dad, here goes $50. Can you come home an hour early on Friday so we can play catch? And it was just like, wow. And again, with the compass and like what we've been trained and taught, like, and for our kids, one of Coach Caldwell's things was like, your best ability is your availability. And I know one of your missions and one of the things that you say is
ministry of availability. Biggest part of my job, Gary, is just being present for people. Do you prioritize people? Do you let people know that they matter? Do you invest in the cameraman when you're at a shoot? Do you learn about who's in the room? Do you understand the person that's sitting off to the side that may not feel encouraged that day? That's what we do. Now, when you're doing that with high leverage people, people that actually have platforms and influence, right? They feel the authenticity because we all want to matter.
Right.
But you can reach millions of people in a day, right?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz might drop a Instagram post this afternoon about audience of one saying, "Look, this matters," and you go, "Oh goodness!" Like he's on mission for a message that matters.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of people that I want to be around, to find ways to pour into people so that they can then pour into their communities. So that's what I've been doing for a long time. God put me in a pathway to use the skills that I developed as a young person, because God wastes nothing.
Right.
Like he taught me. But the thing that you need to know, Gary, is I was the 17th man. I couldn't make my high school basketball team in Anderson, Indiana.
Wow.
I wasn't good enough. But I would make it to the final cut. And then that last day that I'd go to see the 16 people that got to play on the varsity team. Now, if I would have gone to LaPel or Pendleton, any of those, I'd have played.
Yeah.
But at Anderson Highland, man, it was just so much. We were playing some ball. The point of that story is, though, my dad said, "Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about this? Like, you did not make the team your 8th grade year, your 9th grade year, your sophomore year. You don't make it by your sophomore year, like you're done."
Yeah.
But here's the point. He said, "Why don't we go play on the other side of town at the Wilson's Boys Club? Why don't you go be a part of something else?" And I went and played for a man named Lavelle Wilkerson. I was the only white player on an all-black team. So I'm still part of a thing.
Yeah.
And I learned, right, how to play tonk. I understood Rapper's Delight.
Yeah.
All right. I understood what it meant to be a man of honor inside of a system where my whiteness didn't matter. But guess what I was? I was the minority.
Right.
Minority culture, in majority culture. And that taught me how to be able to relate for the rest of my life to the men that's 70% majority culture black inside the NFL and other places. And it's allowed me some favor to be able to understand what it might be like. Though I'll never know for sure, I can learn, I can grow, and I guarantee you and folks that tune in and become part of the programs that we're hatching in the community to serve youth and make a difference, that we will be culturally clear. We'll make sure to honor people of all skin colors. We'll find ways to make sure that the disadvantaged have a hand up. And we'll find ways to make a positive difference. And you've been doing that kind of work for so many years now, Gary. You're just a real encouragement to me and in the community, not just here in Indianapolis, but that's maybe where it's most visible.
Right.
But what's that feel like to be that guy and to be able to have significant influence in and around circles, especially around youth development?
I think what you're talking about in terms of being on that basketball team, African American at this side of time, is like that context of the 6 and the 9. So if I grow 6 right here on the ground, I'll be standing at a 6 and you'll be looking at a 9.
That's good.
And I can tell you that I'm looking at a 6.
That's really good.
And you'll say, no, Gary, it is a 9.
I'm using this one.
And we both will argue to the death of us that you see a 9 and I see a 6. Until I walk around, right, and experience that and get that perspective, I'm saying, that is a 9.
That's good.
Come look at my 6. You come around, you see my 6. And then it's like, that's a 6. So now, like, so until we understand people's context, it's hard for us to serve because we're talking about things, and I try to not generalize because what my values are may not be shared by everyone else. So I'm just going to share you what works for me, what my values are, and I'm going to tell you, you need to have your own individual values. And there's people, there's people that's been successful that you can model. So if you're looking for values, there are great men out there. Yes. Men in the Bible, right? Men of faith, men of business, men of serving, teaching. Like so there's examples and there's role models out there. So for me, when I'm teaching youth, when I'm sharing, I want people to start dreaming.
That's the exact word, Gary, that was in my heart and my spirit, sitting on that word, making their dreams become manifest.
And so many people tell you stop dreaming, stop daydreaming. No, I want you to start daydreaming, please.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was that guy. And how do we dream about greater impact? How can we help people get better? And then you watch other people that did it. And many times, if you ask them, would you be willing to help me? Like, even if it's a short-term stint, they go, sure. Like, how can you resist that? Yeah. If it's a young person saying, hey, how can you do that? Hey, you can't be the it guy for everybody, but you can be the it guy for somebody.
Yeah.
So how do you start to begin to scale that? And what I've noticed in your world is you're beginning to lay down the video. You're beginning to lay down the multimedia, the transferable knowledge, the learning management systems.
Right.
And you got dreams. You're doing it, man.
So the challenge then becomes, because, it's like full cycle. Like, you go mentors, right? Coach Dungy, I was a captain. And he's mentor, right? We're leading the team, Super Bowl, Coach Caldwell, great men that I had the opportunity to play with and play for. So now it's like me paying it forward, and I'm mentoring younger people. But then I get to a point where one-on-one conversations don't scale. And to have a greater impact, I have to figure out, how do I digitize, how do I put some of these conversations in some of these platforms that could be purchased, that could be scholarship.
That's right.
But it's like teaching at scale, because a lot of things, my principles, I'm gonna say the same thing. Yeah. And it's like, I want to say it in a way that is edutainment.
That's right.
That then I can offer it to you, that you can learn from it. And what I'm offering to you for the price of value is so that I can continue to add value.
Experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just bringing it in a way. We got really good at this in the media business, and we were doing it with the sports section. What you guys were doing on Sunday, right? Let's tell that story, because it was a community story,
right?
And that's amazing, right? February 4th, 2007, 2006 season, Super Bowl championship. Like, the stories that come from that was not just about winning a Super Bowl, right? It was about the journey that y'all did together,
right?
And about how we can look to that to find inspiration in our own lives, to understand that you all were journeying in your own adventures, and Tony having lost James, right? The complexities of what does this all mean, and how can you support this leader when the leader becomes the person that is supported by the team, and that virtuous cycle, and his commitment to you to tell you with frequency what you do with your platform matters. Community matters.
Right.
In fact, I've heard him tell the story from the stage many times. He's only gotten really angry out loud with players on one occasion, and it's when two guys from your team miss community appearances.
Right.
And it's like, he doesn't want to be known that way. He wants to be known for what he is known for, and what you're known for, and what all your teammates, one man right after the next. We could come up with 20 names fast.
Yeah.
And the point is that, each of them decided that my life is not just about me. It's about we.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I had the book back there. I don't want to run and mess up the show, but you wrote a book about just what you talked about, the Jersey effect, that talked about the men that were in the Super Bowl. Coach Dungy's in there, Jeff Saturday, Tyreek Glenn, Matt Giordano's in there, Ben Utek is in there, Clyde Christensen, Jim Caldwell. Like you said, 20 guys. I can name them off. Like
I know, right?
In an instance, the biggest story, because this is like our second time meeting. Darrin and I were working together to help have impacts in the communities. Yeah. But the story you talked about Ben Utek in the second Super Bowl, and I don't believe you won the Super Bowl. Was this the first Super Bowl?
No, this was your first Super Bowl.
First Super Bowl. So tell that story about Ben Utek and about like how powerful that was, and it's in the book, The Jersey Effect.
It is. So Ben Utek was a great contributor on the team, tight end, but most of the time tight ends actually have to block.
Yeah.
So it's not a glamorous job like everyone thinks, but in Ben's case, right, highly touted, coming out of the University of Minnesota, same place Tony went, got an injury his senior year to his abdominal wall, did not get the phone call.
Yeah.
Like
free agent,
right? Ended up getting that phone call after the period was over. Tony and Bill Pullian calling, hey, you want to join the team? Gets on the team. But, man, he's competing against Dallas Clark. I mean, he's competing against some of the best.
All-pro,
right? So he's finding a way to be a contributor, but he's got a backup role. But he's an amazing guy, 6'7", good-looking guy, married to Miss Minnesota.
Like singer.
Anyway. All right. So here's the setup. Somebody, but not the marquee. He's not the team captain.
Exactly.
So anyway, on the week leading up to the Super Bowl, everybody gets the mic in front of them. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets to be like somebody special. If you're on that 53, you're gonna be talking to media outlets. You experience it firsthand. And having just come back from the Super Bowl, man, it's an even bigger circus now than ever before, right? So being part of all of that is really interesting. But the point of this story is, on the day of the Super Bowl, y'all are lined up in the tunnel. Mm-hmm. You're getting ready to run out. Ben's dad, preacher from Minnesota, makes his way down from where they give the parents the seats. You think their parents are all down? No, that's all sponsors down there. Anyway, up there, made his way down to the edge of the tunnel. And as Ben is getting ready to run out with you, Gary, and the rest of your teammates, his dad yells to him. He goes, Ben! Every child knows the voice of his dad if you have one.
No doubt.
And Ben looks up at his dad and he goes, not now.
Wow.
Like how
Super Bowl Sunday,
Super Bowl Sunday, right? And Super Bowl. How does that feel as a dad to have your son go, not now? Point of that is, Ben is like, man, I got to go perform. I got to, no distractions, no excuses, no explanations. Like, I'm even going to give him credit for, trying to think through. I need to stay focused. Dad, love you, man. I'll give you post game.
Yeah.
Not now. Now, what ended up happening was he went out onto the field and he had what I talk about in the Jersey Effect with Jeff Saturday, calls it a God incident. He has a moment like we're playing for something way bigger. So he has his own God incident. Jeff is somewhere else doing his stretching, having his own, tell all these stories. But then Ben has this moment where he realizes that, man, I need to write this one. I need to correct this one, and I need to do it fast. So here's this big old tight end running back to the way, but his dad had begun to make his way up, and he goes, Dad! And every dad knows the sound of his son's voice. Wow. He heard it, man. Yeah. He comes back down, reaches over the edge. Here's big strapping Ben leaning up. And in that moment, Ben going, Dad, it's because of you. It's all the Little League games. It's all the sports. It's all the extra effort of you pouring into me. This is not about me. This is about us. This is our win. I'm going to go out there now. I'm going to do something. Yeah. And in that moment, you get the heart of the Father that says, look, there is a sonship. The Father trying to pour into his Son to say, you are blessed, you are honored, and the Son receiving that in that virtuous cycle. And how do we give that to every child in the world? How do we find ways to replicate when there isn't an intact family, when there isn't a biological father, because look, this is a challenging world, right?
Yeah,
There's
no
divorce,
question.
there's brokenness, there's all kinds of things. How do we begin to scale the replication of fathering and coaching and meaningful interactions? And that's what I've spent, 20 years trying to kind of think about and hopefully bring to scale. And that little story about Ben, which you can read about in the Jersey Effect, you can pick it up on Amazon.com, simple enough. But the truth of the matter is that there is a part of all of us, right, that needs to be humble,
Right.
needs to say, this is not about me,
Right.
and that needs to find a way.
Oh yeah, we'll get the clock off. We're gonna go a little bit longer. This is a great conversation, man. This is powerful, man. And the thing about those God incidents and those God moments, they happen often. So many people think the incident has to be like a miracle, or God like turning water into wine, or God parting the Red Sea. They don't think of a God incident of you calling me on a Friday night, 7 o'clock.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, for me, from now on, it's always a no until it's a yes. Can you do something? Am I getting paid? No or no? Let me explain to you what we're doing. Okay, let me hear it. Oh, okay, you're serving the community. You're helping others. Okay, now I'm interested. Yes. Now let's talk about the date. Now let's see if I'm available. And from then, us having conversations, right, and pouring into each other.
Yes. From
different perspectives, different age groups, and different angles. Yeah, it's just so powerful in terms of like how God uses us in other people's lives, and how those incidences, when you recognize them and when you act on them.
And did you may not have been, conscious of it at the moment, but at a subconscious level, you probably were. In the middle of that conversation, I just stayed incredibly composed.
Yeah.
Who did I learn that composure from?
Yeah, Coach Dungy. Yeah, no question.
Like, I didn't okay, how does my journey intersect with your journey? How do we adventure together? Yeah. And it just becomes this idea that when the best kind of partnerships is when there's a mutuality, when there is mutual benefit for the betterment of others.
Right.
And that's what I specialize in.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I see you doing it too. But the neat thing about yours, you've also created some really compelling business strategy around helping to coach and lead business with a system called EOS, with ways to provide scaled business value back to entrepreneurs, small, mid-sized corporations. And I admire that, and I actually see that as a mission field.
Yeah.
So I love running with business leaders that are actually doing things and moving towards scale, and then understanding the aspirational projects that they have and the desires of their heart. And man, when two men come together chasing after God's heart so they can enliven the fulfillment of the desires that God has set on their heart, now you're in your bliss state, you're in your flow state, and you're going to stay after that because, man, it makes a difference. Yeah. And so how can I serve you, right? How can you serve me? It's amazing.
It's crazy, and real leaders get it. It's like the goal of being a leader is not to create more followers, but to create more leaders. So I'm not in competition with anyone except myself.
That's right.
And I'm not offended by being around people who's better than me. I'm not ashamed. I welcome it.
Right.
And I think when people start thinking about, surrounding themselves with the best, with people that do their job with excellence, that mastery and skills, and people that there's a few little things, right? So one thing is like people always ask you like, what's the secret to success? What's the secret, right? And so many people just think it's hard work. That's what we've been told. Just grind.
They would be wrong.
So if you look at dishwashers, if you look at people landscaping, if you look at the nurses that's been 80 hours, the doctors dealing with COVID, they're working extremely hard. But is that it? Right? And it was this thing, I just read it over the weekend, and it really just, because it helped me articulate it better, but it talked about the Hexacle study. Now, Hexacle is a personality test. And it's like H stands for like humanity, so it goes to like 20 different personalities. But the scientists say in order to have success is this one thing called conscientiousness. So conscientiousness is broken down to 4 different ones. One is diligence. So diligence is hard work. So hard work is a part of success, but it's only 25%. The next is perfectionism. Are you doing your job at a high level every single time? Are you checking your work? Are you doing it every single time at a high level, checking your work? This thing, Six Sigma, is like they want 3 incidents out of 1,000,000 times, right? So that's talking about these manufacturing companies, the robotics, right? That's how they're so efficient, right? 3 incidents. You can scale if those are your ratios.
Yes.
The next is organization. Are you organized? Do you spend time? Like I have this thing where I don't start my day until I finish it. What do you mean you don't start your day until you finish it? I paper down how my day is going to play out before I begin. In the mornings, I spend time mapping out my day, organizing what I need to do. And successful people, that's what they do, right? They're organized. And then the last thing is something called prudence. And prudence talks about decision making. And all right, how do I make good decisions, right? Some people, you make good decisions by making bad decisions. Or, right, is the accumulation of knowledge. Is learning from others. Is seeking knowledge. And I think so many people, once they start understanding that it's not just hard work, that it's all these other things that they need to do to put inside of their lives. And then, right, for me, one of my core values, fulfillment first, then serve. Yes. Then they become full, and then their cup is running over. Then when they serve, they're giving out the good stuff. Overflow. So it's amazing. So I'm excited. March 24th, we're having an event.
May 20th.
May 20th. And it's my birthday. It's one day after my birthday, right? So I should know that. May 24th, tell us about the event that we're having, because the event is for athletes in action. Yes. And it's to, obviously, one, bring awareness to the youth and some of the development things that you have planned in terms of some programming, but also to kind of like help like run some of these foundations.
Yeah, so proexperiences.org.
Proexperiences.org.
Yeah, people can learn more about what's going to happen on May the 24th. Top Golf, Fishers, Indiana.
Right.
We're going to come together for 4 hours, noon to 4 p.m., and we're going to grow together. Right. We're going to play some, golf. We're going to hit some balls and have some fun with some pros, but more importantly, we're going to learn about our own selves. We're going to learn about a program called Project Play, which is at Brookside Community Center, part of the Aspen Institute, and we're going to come together and really help to pioneer better summer camp training programs for young people in tough neighborhoods. Because they need guys like Gary to come and speak a word of encouragement, but also give them those practical skill sets that he was just laying forth, to bring the wisdom and the curriculum and the strategies that will help them kind of get out of their mess so they can get to the message that God has for them, get beyond the test to the testimony. And you're the kind of guy that can help to bring that. So it's a joy and honor to team up with you to help make a positive difference. And then we'll have some other Colts players and alumni that'll be part of that, and we'll have a lot of fun. But, if guys want to be involved, you can log on, buy a bay today. Hey, it's $1,000. Don't worry about the grand. Worry about what you're going to be able to enjoy as being part of this, as a really almost like a master executive class in coaching and in leadership, because that's what you're certainly going to get from Gary on May 24th.
Now, man, that's exciting. I'm thrilled to death. We're probably gonna do several of these, right? So we don't have to drop them out on that. But I do every podcast. We ask a question, a final question, right? And you've been around great leaders. You have a great perspective. One thing that is constant with you is just like learning and growing. And then I definitely admire that. So there's a lot of clues, if you will, from success. But if you had one clue that you could kind of leave the audience that you learned that really like changed your life, like what would that be that you can leave everyone?
Gary, people support what they help to create. And there's lots of good ideas in the world, but if it's my idea and I'm trying to make it your idea, it's not like God put on your heart things that you want to do. But if I come to you and I listen and I wonder and I seek after your joy, then I can figure out what we can create together. And we find ourselves sitting in a chair doing a thing, finding a way forward. And that's an awful lot like life, Gary. Finding ways to involve people in the process. It's leadership through participation as opposed to through position. Right. People try to positionally, you should do this, this, and this. No, I'm not about that. Hey, participate with me. Will you support the process the growth, we'll enjoy it together. Now it's a whole different encounter, and I really think that's been one of the things that I figured out, probably 2 decades ago. I'm starting to get some clues, and at the time I'm just teaching what I most need to learn.
Right.
Like, I don't have it figured, I still don't have it figured out, but what if I have learned something along the way, it's to invite people along in that process, and it's more likely they're going to support it if they help to create it.
Man, that's amazing. Well, that is great. I think one of the things that I just picked up from there was you don't need a title to be a leader.
You do not.
So I feel like a lot of people are waiting for that title before they lead. And I think, like you said, man, leadership comes in a lot of different ways. But being informed, bringing others with you, working together, I think is the way that, we can continue to make impacts, we continue to grow, and really just change the world, man. I think my belief is that, like, the naysayers, the negative, the bad people are outworking the good people.
So often seems that way, and I think media exacerbates that because they want to tell a story that bleeds, it leads, and so, okay, I get it, but man, let's be the good storytellers.
There's so much good out there.
There's so much. And I look at your team that you were part of, that you got to be a team captain for. You weren't, right? You didn't have the biggest frame. You maybe don't even have the fastest speed, but you found a way to lead from where you were. And then over time, God elevated that. Now you're a team captain walking out on Super Bowl Sunday for the coin flip with another guy named Manning.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, you can't make this up. Like, this is God incidents beyond measure. And when we're trained to watch for that, when we're trained to be great noticers of what God is doing and of other people around us, that'll never come back void. We can change plenty of lives. And as we go, right, we can get better, and we can ultimately become the best version of who we're trying to be. And I see you doing that, and what you're trying to do with Success Leaves Clues. It's so inspiring. And the fact that you're crossing over from a sports audience, right, sport fan, to business leaders, community leaders, and you're willing to make a difference as you go. Can't think of a better man to team up with on proexperiences.org, finding a way to make a difference. And it's just such an encouragement to be with you here today, Gary.
All right, awesome. Well, great. Well, thank you once again, man. This has been phenomenal. And I'm looking forward to May 24th. I'm definitely going to bring my A game because I know people are going to challenge me. So I will be there. I have hit 300 drives in my past. I can see if I can hit the net. See if I can get it done again. But hey, thanks for checking out another episode, Success Leaves Clues. Once again, that website for May 24th.
Yeah, proexperiences.org.
Yeah, and then you can follow Darrin on Instagram and your
You can be. So All Pro Dad Leader is the way that you'll find me in and around my ecosystem. But if you Google Darrin Gray, you'll find me.
Man, well, thanks again, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and share it, like it. Definitely tag someone in this in your community that you feel like this will help and that will serve. And I hope you all have a great day. And remember, right? Leadership is not about creating more followers. It's about creating more leaders. You go out there and create some leaders today.